there's a reasonable risk that despite whatever NVIDIA says today or the FOMC says today, there might be a little bit of upside here, but the real risk in the short term is going to be a correction back towards this 20-day moving average. So here's what you need to know before the bell this morning. Market sitting right at all-time highs. If we kind of zoom in here a little bit, what you'll notice is that we're just trading over the last 5 days within a very tight range. So we closed yesterday at the intraday highs of what we've done over the last few days. So again, markets have rallied to where we closed yesterday, sold off a bit intraday, closed a little bit lower. We did set a closing new high yesterday, so that was good. If you just kind of take a look here, we're just kind of flatlining the markets here right now. And again, that's what we had talked about previously, is that markets had a very nice gain here from those April lows, and we just kind of gotten fairly extended. So again, price gains are just going to be a little bit harder to come by, particularly when the markets are as overbought as they are right now. There's a reasonable risk that despite whatever NVIDIA says today or the FOMC says today, there might be a little bit of upside here, but the real risk in the short term is going to be a correction back towards this 20-day moving average. So again, if you're looking at the markets at about 5,300, you're looking for a correction back to around 5180-ish on the S&P. So it's a decent correction, right? So you got about 120 points of downside in the markets. Again, sounds like a lot, but a couple of percentage decline would not be outside the realm of possibility. In fact, we have not had a 2% down day in the market in over 315 days. So it's a very long stretch of time that we've not had a 2% correction day in the markets. Disappointment this evening from NVIDIA, FOMC minutes, something could certainly create a bit of a sell-off here. But even good news is likely going to be difficult to lift the markets a whole lot higher here very rapidly. Again, we could just kind of continue to climb higher as the 20-day moving average starts to catch up. But as we talked about yesterday, once we kind of get to that upward trend, it becomes an issue where the market continually kind of retests that 20-day moving average. It becomes kind of the trend support for the markets during and advance. So we've got to kind of close this gap between the 20-day and where the markets are currently trading. So again, market declines a bit, 20-day moving average moves up a bit, but we kind of close that gap. And then that becomes back into, if we're going to have a continuing kind of rally here over the next several months, moving into summer, that 20-day moving average should start to become real support for the markets. Again, overbought here short-term, MACD's getting pretty elevated. So again, a little bit of a correction here would not be surprising, and that would give the markets the ability to kind of continue to climb here for the next month or two before we get into the latter summer months, where we could have a correction sooner. But I think the risk of a bigger correction, kind of like we saw in April, won't be until September, October, prior to the election. So again, we just kind of get some de-risking before the election this year. Certainly would not be surprising. For now, not a lot to worry about. Volatility set up for after the bell today. I have no idea what's going to happen with NVIDIA. So we've got some guesses. But again, like I said, we de-risked a bit yesterday just in anticipation of that report. Tomorrow, we'll talk some more about it. Of course, Michael Liebowitz will join me tomorrow as well. We'll go over the FOMC minutes, what that said, what that means for inflation. So we'll have a lot to talk about tomorrow in relation to this. Just today, if you haven't taken any profits in positions, there is a risk of disappointment tomorrow that could lead to a fairly sharp reversion. So again, maybe take a little bit of profit today, just be prepared. You can always buy back later, right? Just because you take a little bit of profits doesn't mean you can't buy it back tomorrow. Be careful here. I have no idea how today is going to work out. That's what you need to know before the bell this morning.